I think actually it's kind of my mother's milk, Allemensrätten. It gave us the freedom from the beginning as children to just step out wherever we wanted. No restrictions to be outdoors. So it's the ultimate playground, of course, nature, and to have that freedom and the possibilities embedded in the culture. Of course, as a child, you just live it. But when I grow up a bit, I could understand more and more that this was a very unique experience, especially when it comes to tourists. I was working as a mountain guide up in the north, and we had tourists from different parts of the world. And I could see on their reactions there was a specific feeling or freedom they felt when they came out to the Swedish land. So pretty much.
I knew you were going to say mother's milk. How do children get it? You said mother's milk. Is there any?
Yeah, I mean, as we have it embedded in our culture, most parents bring them outdoors. Also schools, preschools, they get used to pick stuff from nature and play with it because you're allowed to. So it's like it's the normal. It's the norm. At least it has been. Because we are few people on a big land, also in Sweden, on a big area, it's only in the cities, the big cities like Stockholm and Gothenburg and Malmö, that perhaps some of the kids hasn't got that in their close environment, the possibility. But even there, it's what you do. You bring them outdoors. You bring them into the woods. You bring them with the class or with the group. So it's part of the pattern we have.
You have a very good friend who's on language.
Yeah.
And he said
Yeah, I did.
yeah.
Right.
He said that Swedes are a lot more.
I think what they have as a kind of a core element in their belief or tradition is thanksgiving, giving thanks to what you have around you, and also that it's the normal. It's not you step out into something and then you go back home. It's actually your home, and I think that was what he felt when he came over here. He said that it's so great to find allies, and it's actually to protect that freedom and to protect that relationship to nature.
Being in nature impact decision making, personally, business, society. What's the connection between how we approach making sometimes tough decisions?
What I've seen with the people coming to our programs, when we bring them out, top leaders, they get connected to their deeper values, to their authentic self, and that what my experience, and that's also what they're saying, that is the place from where they want to take decisions, especially when it's tough. So you get connected to your deeper self, and I think it's not only the intellect, you connect also to other parts of your whole self. And you also start to, or step out of roles you're playing. So when you come out into nature, there starts another kind of dialogue, a deeper dialogue between people, between leaders. And in that space, they also connect to perhaps the tougher questions that has to be taken care of. So it's like a classroom or a laboratory.
We have to survive this, and we're not going to do it outside nature. So, what are the tools that nature is trying to give us?
When you connect to your deeper self, you can call it spirituality or a deeper meaning. and you know that you have to address threats from outside, you also are much more eager to hook arms with allies, with other people. And I think that you get this energy, the deeper feeling that what has to be done, and you also get the feeling that you have to do it together with others. And I think it's the big threat we have now is on a global scale, and perhaps we have to step up to the next level, because the human beings has been very successful to spread out over the planet, and we have constructed a world very advanced, also giving that with that all the threats we have around us. And now I think for the first time in history we have to face the biggest beast, which is that we have to wrestle on a global scale together, and we can't do that only on if we don't stand on a solid ground, which is nature, we will lose ourselves. So we have to reconnect to nature. What I'm after is actually we have to do it together on a global scale, and we are so lost, and we are also lost on a spiritual way, you could call it. So we have to go back to our roots, and if we are so lost, as I can see in some parts of the world, it's actually also because of the lack of connection to nature. The most important thing nature is trying to tell us is that we are all connected.
For me, it's something I grew up with, and that was so natural to me that I didn't understand it until I came actually to the US as an exchange student. I had read about this with properties and that it was dealt with differently in other countries than in Sweden. But of course in Sweden we also know who is owning what. But as a young child I could always be anywhere, and we were like when I was 14 and 15 years, we met outside in the forest just to hang out, and that was great. But when I came to the States as an exchange student, 83 and 84, and my families told me, no, you can't go out like you used to do in Sweden. But I want to go on walks, I said. I used to go out in the mornings and just have an hour of walk in the nature. And no, you can't do that. Here you need to understand who is owning what properties. Finally, after some months, I just went out. I couldn't take it any longer. And then I came to this part in the forest where there was a sign saying a word I'd never seen before, and I read it as no trees passing. And I couldn't understand it, no trees passing. What does it mean? Not passing trees or hanging in the trees. What is it? But I just had to walk, and it was a beautiful forest. So I went in there and walked, and then I came home to my family, and I told them where I'd been, and they were so scared. What have you done? You can't walk there. It's no trespassing. Trespassing? What's that? And then they said it was illegal, and it's still something that I couldn't really take in, because I grew up with being able to be in nature.
Moving information around reduce carbon.
Yeah. So information and communication technology, or ICT, can enable a lot of different sectors transformations. That can be in the utility sectors, it can be in the transportation sector, but of course also in other sectors like healthcare and education. So on the topic of reducing carbon emissions with information and communication technology, one thing is to reduce travel by using video conferences. But we also need to meet and connect. But when we travel and when we transport things, then we can do it more efficiently with the help of intelligent transport systems. So that's one area. Another area is how ICT help utility complete systems to be more efficient, all the way from the production via the distribution, where you can find the largest gains, and then also in the usage part from in the production sites, in homes, facilities management, where you can become more efficient by knowing where you're spending or losing. So that's really the essence, that with information from real time, then you can give back information where you have the losses, and thereby you can actually become more efficient.
So it creates its own feedback system.
Exactly. And then with us human beings, we don't, as Homo sapiens, our way of changing is when we get something like almost in our face. And we need to get this feedback loop. So we know, okay, if I want to do a change, I need to know what to change. So these instant feedback loops, what I need to do is where ICT also can play a role, as well as building up underlying systems to help people who don't want to know their, or don't have time to react on every detail in their private life. Then you can set up underlying systems to help them. You know, you can turn off the fridge for 2 or 3 hours, if that's okay, via service level agreements with your utility company.
So this is the Internet of Things.
It's part of the Internet of Things, yes, so it's a huge potential.
Yeah, I've heard it's upwards of the total emissions of Europe and America combined.
Exactly.
Can be saved.
Yes, globally.
Globally.
Yeah, so by 2030, if the technology is used with this intention, then it can reduce emissions with 15%, equaling EU and US emissions combined. However, it's important then to measure and to see that we're on that direction, because only deploying technology in itself won't help.
And what's your role there? What's the idea there?
Well, the very, very interesting thing with the Stockholm Royal Seaport is that they have, first of all, set world-class targets regarding sustainability. And then they also said that they want to use technology to achieve those targets. And then, of course, one of the main technologies that can be used is ICT. It's not the only one, but it's one of the technologies. And that's where we play a role then in the smart grids development. The cooperation is made in a way that it's called, in Swedish, samråds, what is it? I can't remember the Swedish word, but it's a cooperation council. Yeah. And then I try to describe this, that it's a council where we meet and say what we want to do, but we don't decide anything, because it's not a decision forum, but it's a formal input forum and a forum where we share insights and concerns. And that then builds on the common knowledge of the whole group, which strengthens our possibilities to transform. And what's also important is that the assignment, so to say, to do the development is not handed over to an external party to fix it, but it's something we together need to address and drive. And then we also need to increase our knowledge and deeper understanding what the challenges are and what other parts can bring in to the transformation that we need to do.
Like your friend Mickey Percepti, what makes Swedes tick?
I think we work pretty good together. we can see the bigger picture. We are connected to nature. We can still see the loops in nature, how we are connected. We have one phone call to all the decision makers. It's easy to access. So I think it's we have it in the system. We have it. We have a tradition, and we understand also cause and effects. That's what I think.
And I think, of course, what we've talked about, the Allemensrätten, that we have the access to nature, and that we know that even though someone is owning something, we can also take responsibility with freedom, combined. The other thing I think is extremely important is that we have had a mandatory school for a long time, since 1840s. So and for everyone, really a good system, which means that all people here, you can talk to everyone. I know I had colleagues from other countries in Middle Europe who said that, wow, I can talk to the person in the grocery store. I can talk to anyone here. In my country, I can't. They don't understand. But we have a common ground here. And we also have a basic trust for each other, which might also come from a long, long tradition of neutrality, where in this position, by being neutral, we've also been able to not be in war for 200 years. And this peaceful environment that we've had in the country has made it possible for us to jointly develop. We haven't had to be in wars, fights, and been distracted. And that also impacts the soul.
Yeah.
When you've been hurt like that, and all the memories, not only, for the persons, but also for the country as such. So I think we have, in that sense, an extremely good foundation. The trust part I also see a lot when I work, especially together with Swedish companies or other types of organizations. It would be any, if it's local authorities or if it's, funds or whatever, that if we say that we will do something, I know I can come back and we continue that journey.
Yeah.
I can trust someone who is saying that we will be on this together. In other parts, I need to understand the culture, if there are other drivers or personal drivers that are difficult to understand. But here, everyone also can. We know that if something happens, there will be a fallback. I will not lose all my possibilities to go to hospital or education. I don't have to fight against others to get this common basics that actually build a society. And where I think that the tax system in itself is a fantastic sharing economy.
Yeah. I was just going to say that now the sharing economy is something very popular, but we have had it. I think that's one of the core elements of the whole Swedish culture. So that gives trust as well. And you can see in both parties, both left and right, can agree upon this sharing economy for the most needed. So that is the I think it's in our DNA as well.
And also the discussion between the employees and the companies, that has been like a social contract for decades within Sweden. And I know some of my American colleagues, they say, you have an economic development that is, something we dream about. And at the same time you have this, what we call social system. And but the combination, what you're doing is actually achieving what most of the countries in the world want to achieve.
Yeah.
And then I feel a bit, wow, that's true, but...
And if you have trust, if you can feel that from early age, and you have a trustful feeling with the society, you can pick it up from your parents, from your the leaders or teachers or so. And I think that creates a ground for a common cause. And I think that is what we have actually. So the common cause now is to fight climate change, for example. Yeah, I think the human beings are survivors, and we will look for good examples, and we will learn from them. So,
What do you need from us? What do you need from America? What does the world need? What does Sweden need?
I think we need some of this entrepreneurial soul that you have had, or you can show how to change in a very short time big systems, structures, and you can give a little bit of a self-confidence to the Swedes, I think.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, but you have an enormous possibility and power to change. So when your system and your people start to change, that impacts the world.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm concerned about the future, and that's why
I mean, you both are working at it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I really feel I need to do a lot here in my daily life. And I'm concerned, especially when I see all the conflicts that are ongoing in the world on topics with regards to how people live or can't live together. Because that then hampers and reduces the possibilities to address the questions we need to address. So, and there I also feel that peace-building activities for children and young are extremely important all over the world. To be able to work together and defocusing on the conflicts, but being able to jointly develop. I want to say one more thing. Yeah, on Allemensrätten. With Allemensrätten and the accessibility to nature, and this with freedom and responsibility, it's also about respecting nature. And respecting nature and life, respecting human beings. So respecting each other is one also of the key components in the Swedish culture, which I think then builds the possibilities to trust each other, because I know we respect each other.
Yeah. Actually, I think that one of the most important books to learn to read now is to read the Book of Nature for children. We have to understand how we are all connected, and we have to understand how the whole system works. It's absolutely necessary for the future.
So when I grew up on the countryside with animals, and we grew a lot of our food ourselves, and when we talked about this, so when I now eat the food, that becomes me. And that understanding of what I eat, what I breathe, what I put on my skin becomes me. And then, of course, I don't want to have strange chemicals in me, because we don't know what happens then.